What's going on, guys? Dr. Andrew Fix back for another episode here on The Code. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Well, afternoon for us, whatever time you're listening. We really appreciate you tuning into this podcast, however you're choosing to listen to it. As I usually say, when we have a guest joining, we have another awesome interview lined up for you guys today. I'm excited to see what we get into in this conversation. We've got Ericka Holcomb joining us. She is the CEO and owner of SweatNET Denver. She also owns a gym up in Rhino. For those of you not in Denver, that means River North, the section of Denver, and that's called Platform Strength. So, Ericka, thank you so much for hopping on the code and joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Um, so despite, or not despite, but in addition to owning those two businesses now, Ericka also has had some time owning a gym in South Denver in the past for 7.5 years. So she's just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the fitness and the health space. But for those of you that don't know, Ericka, it would be awesome for you to just introduce yourself a little bit more thoroughly, share a little bit about you, where you're from, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Southern Indiana, actually. So I've been in Colorado for almost 10 years now, which is wild. But growing up, I played basketball and softball, and played all the way like through college. I've always been an athlete, but I have not always been healthy. And I think that in Indiana, especially, we weren't taught anything. No one knew, no one talked about anything. And it's just meat, potatoes. It's the beige food diet, classic, just like through and through, and fast food all the time. So you just don't know what you don't know. And as an athlete and a like young growing body, you can kind of get away with eating whatever you want until you can't. And I very quickly realized after playing sports that I had horrible habits. I drank a lot. I ate Taco Bell 3 times a day, very, very unhealthy. And I found myself over 200 pounds. And my corporate career was in HR. So I sat at a desk and I was just miserable all the time for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into fitness as an accident when I met my now ex-husband, and he in Denver, and I got into fitness kind of through him. So first just through my own personal journey, and then I realized like, oh, I'm a businesswoman. Let me also kind of couple these two things together. So I ended up here kind of as an accident, but it really is a true calling for me, realizing I did it for myself and this journey that I've been on, just trying to get people to the same outcome a lot faster than I got there.
Yeah.
And it's been one hell of a road with, COVID and all the things intertwined. I've competed in all sorts of different athletic endeavors in adulthood as well, CrossFit, strongman, playing recreational sports, all sorts of things. So, kind of back into fitness, but really just trying to expand what fitness means to me and helping people find passion in food and movement, because I did not always enjoy this. I have not always looked this way. I've not always acted this way. So, really just helping people kind of get to whatever destination they're trying to get to in a very sustainable and fun way.
Man, that I love that story that you just took us on there because I think so many people can relate to it. And whether it's I used to be an athlete, I got into corporate America and my habits changed and whatnot, like you sort of said, or the journey that I've been on, where like I've been an athlete my whole life growing up, but I have gone through so many orthopedic injuries and surgeries that I just have to like keep restarting this rehab process and keep restarting the fitness journey after dealing with a major setback. It is like such a challenging thing to go through mentally, physically, emotionally. And the same thing can be said if someone's going through like a big weight loss journey, like you just mentioned. So, one thing I would love for you to expand on just a little bit more, us both being the Midwestern people on the call here, is I totally agree with you that as I have moved away from southeastern Wisconsin, where I'm from, there is a big difference of the way people take care of themselves and the way the lifestyle is in different places that I've had the opportunity to live now in the United States. In thinking, you said you lived here, I think, for 10 years. So thinking back to when you moved to Colorado, not like what it is like now, but like what were some of the things that you noticed were the biggest difference from Indiana, how people live and take care of themselves in the Midwest compared to in Colorado, like right when you moved here? And maybe not thinking about what has happened over the last 10 years.
Sure. I will never forget when I moved in late November, and it was a sunny 70-degree day in November, and I was living outside of Detroit before I moved here, and I was like, what the, what is happening? First of all, how is it 70 degrees and the sun is shining? This is like unheard of. And there was snow on the ground, and I was at a red light and someone was on their bike, and I was like, what? There's snow on the ground and someone is biking. Where am I? If there's like snow on the ground, there was no one outside really, unless they like had to go, to work or on an errand or something like that in where I lived. It was just unheard of. So the fact that people were just so active all the time, year round, I couldn't, and people were out running. Um, I like obviously it was 70 degrees, so I understand, but then it's like there's snow on the ground. Like you would not see anyone doing that. You would hardly see that if there wasn't snow on the ground and it was, July in Indiana. Like it's just the people are so active. And I remember being like, this is just a whole different population. And I had never been here. So when I moved here, someone had just told me one day, like, I think you would like it in Denver. And I'm like, sure, why not? If I don't like it, I'll just pack up or keep moving. So that's how I ended up here. And I just like picked, on a map. So I wasn't even that active. And so it was just very mind blowing to me. It wasn't even uh I don't know, it's just wild.
Yeah, and part of my reasoning for bringing that up is obviously not to poke fun at the Midwest. I'm from there too. I love going back home, and you can be
Mhm.
totally active and do whatever you want, wherever you want, and within reason, of course. You're not hiking the Rocky Mountains in the Midwest, of course, but
Right.
like, you can go do activities anywhere. But one thing that I think is true is you and I both meet so many people that have relocated here from Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, you name it. I feel like I meet as many Midwestern people that live here as I do Colorado folks that are native to Colorado. And I
Mhm.
think something, that is probably true is a lot of like people tend to congregate or find their way to the same place together, right? And we tend to attract to one another. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, it's not surprising that a lot of people that enjoy doing the same things found themselves in the same place. And Colorado just happens to be one of those very outdoorsy, accessible areas. And I agree with you. I just think um, the accessibility to whatever you want to do fitness wise is so great here, and it's definitely one of our favorite things about living here. I think what Aaron and I need to do, we need to get out hiking more. We did a lot of hiking when we first moved here, and then now that we've
Sure.
been here for a while, I feel like we have not gone as much. But we need to put Aiden in the carrier and start hitting.
Yeah.
Uh, once he gets a little head control, then we can go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I see you've got the basketball there behind you.
Oh yeah.
Being from
That's funny.
Indiana, I don't know if you're caught up in the fever of the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark and all these college stars that now just got into the WNBA, but
Mhm.
I know that has been a something that's growing in popularity over the past, I would say 2 years, right? Maybe, but especially over the last like 6 months, is women's
Definitely.
basketball has just taken off.
It's fun to watch finally
Yeah,
for
it's awesome.
people.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
getting like highlights on my phone. I'm seeing it on television a lot more than I used to. I think it's just great. But well, let me ask you this. I want you to tell us a little bit, Erica, about what is SweatNet.
Yeah. So SweatNet is a monthly membership, and you can get access to all of our monthly events that we host around the city. And ultimately, what it is it's a community for people. Maybe you like, everyone has their thing. They like to go to their gym, they have their people, and they're not really necessarily looking to switch gyms. But Denver, I find especially, is a fitness hopping city. People hop onto trends, they hop into new styles of things. They're way more likely to try something new than a lot of other cities that I've lived in.
Sure.
And So this community, basically, you can have your own, gym, your community there, but then you can also come to these events where maybe you don't want to pay $35 for a drop in to try Pilates because you're also dropping into a room full of people who do Pilates. So if that's really intimidating for you, like, but your, physical therapist told you that maybe you should try to build some stabilizing muscles and you don't want to do that in like pre or rehab situation, then you should go try a class. That
Mhm.
happens to my clients all the time as a supplemental thing, but you're not going to go do that most likely, especially if you lift heavy weights. You're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to like be with my people. I'll do it on my own. The reality of that happening is pretty low. So what SweatNet does is we will go into studios and we will do a class that's just for our members.
Yeah.
You can drop in as like an external person, but for the most part, it's the same type of uh, the people that you see at all the events, which is what makes it really fun. So you can try things out with like a lower intimidation factor and also have a good time. I'm also adding kind of more of a social element to it. So I kind of have four different experiences that I'm trying to host. A lot of them are sweats, obviously. We do a workout. Sometimes it's paired with a social. We did a Rockies game a little while ago. We have a workshop kind of element to it. We're doing self defense. I'm doing a kettlebell workshop, things like that. So some of it is education based. And then I want to do some field trips where we go on hikes and they're led by some of our ambassadors or some of our members and things like that. So it is a community based thing that you can just do in addition to what your normal routine is.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're totally right that I feel like a lot of times people want to go try something else, but they might be intimidated because they don't want to be the only one that's new to something, right? Like, I
Mhm.
even feel that sometimes, and I'm in the fitness world. I go drop into places all the time, but
Yeah.
we even someone who does that, you tend to get in your same little routine. We're like, oh, I'll go drop in at the same place again, or I'll
Hmm.
go drop in at another location of the same franchise because I know what it's like instead of going and trying out a new place because you're just a little intimidated or unsure what you're going to walk into. But what you're saying is what SweatNet provides is it's a community of people who like you're going to be with them. You're not dropping in to a class with a bunch of regulars. You're dropping in with the SweatNet community.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just makes it lowers like that barrier to entry. And like, I probably would never go do a hip hop class. I've been saying for years, like, I want to try like a hip hop dance class. The reality of me doing that on my own, I still have yet to do it. So there's that. So most likely not going to do that. But I did go to a SweatNet hip hop class with Block 21. And now I want to go to their studio where I know a few instructors because they were at the event and I went, some of their members were there. So it just like creates an even broader community within the fitness community. And so it it kind of just removes the isolation that you feel. And if you and I feel intimidated to go into a new studio, like a general person is going to feel like, probably 10 times more intimidated to try
Absolutely.
something new.
Yeah, totally. And I think, you could ask my wife, you could ask any coworkers or clients. I fall farther on the extroverted side of the spectrum too when it comes to like personalities and stuff. So my willingness or my barrier to like go into a environment where I'm meeting a bunch of new people, like I'm fairly comfortable doing that. But I
Yeah.
think I'm different than a lot of people in that where some people just are, a little hesitant to put themselves into that situation, or they might be a little more introverted. So I think a group like this provides a great community, is the word you use, like provides a great network of people that you could connect with to do something like that, to maybe take that smaller step out of your comfort zone instead of this giant leap or something. Um,
Yeah.
and just to point this out, how Eric and I got connected is through these SweatNet events. So I think I've been present now at two, three, maybe different SweatNet events. One was in the gym that I train in on a regular basis. So that was one of the ways that I got connected with that and met Erica. And ultimately we ended up having this conversation. But let's dive into that community piece just a little bit more because you played sports growing up, so you had a team, and then you moved out here, moved away from people that you were maybe on those teams with and whatnot. What have you learned from your own experience in fitness and, in classes, and now owning two gyms, owning SweatNet, about just how important having that community around you from a fitness or a health and lifestyle perspective is. Or another way you could take that is, what have you seen are the benefits when people have that community versus when you don't?
Mm, yeah, there's so many ways I can take this. So I think community from just like the base level is like having people to go through shared experience with. When you add fitness to the equation, it's like shared suffering almost. And I think that it's really well, I should also back up. Like I did not truly enjoy movement or fitness that was not the sport I was playing until probably 2020, until COVID, which is when I really started to just like do it for me versus because like I had to or I was competing for something or whatever it is. So I think that finding people that are doing what you're doing and you actually enjoy it, but you're still suffering, it just bonds you together. I mean, look at like early 2000s CrossFit, and like people are still talking about how CrossFit is like culty
Yeah.
and that it's like this thing that you get sucked into and you drink the Kool-Aid. But it's true. Like that is ultimately how I kind of entered the fitness arena, was through that. And I think that you walk into a place and you don't know anything, but everything in there feels familiar. Like that's kind of what community starts to create. And then you add familiar faces to it. It's like, why would I not want to show up for that person? Or all my friends are going to be there. And I think as an adult, it's really hard to make friends. It's really hard to create deeper relationships with people where fitness kind of brings people together in that just like so much faster because you all just like went through something together in like an hour long class. So it just creates such a better like sense of home. And I think that because Denver especially is very transient, that is easier to foster here because everyone is kind of looking for it. There's not, I mean, there's definitely like clicky places, clicky gyms. That's still very much a thing. And I think that's neat, like, natural kind of when you get like people, like-minded people together. However, there's really not a lot of that here. I think every community in Denver, because people are all wanting to be part of something and they're open to trying think like new things. You can really walk into any gym in Denver and feel welcome, which is really, really rare. I mean, I've been to thousands of gyms all over the world, and it is not like this
Mhm.
everywhere. So that is really cool. And it just gives people a reason to come back to do hard things. Like fitness is hard for a lot of people. And so especially talking to athletes, elite athletes, people that it's easy for them to go work out. And that's why I say like I haven't always enjoyed this. Like I really understand. Like my first gym, I have chased people that came up to my door and I watched them, and we had like a very, very inviting space. I
Yeah.
painted it like orange and teal, and like it was like not black walls and dirty like a lot of the gyms kind of were back then. Like very welcoming, and I watched people walk away and I chased them to their car. Like I saw you walk up here, like you did the hardest part. You got to the front door.
Yeah.
So like you had like come in. I will make you come in now and I will chase you to your car. And I have people that reach out to me still. They're like, I will never forget that. And it's like that is what community starts to do for you. And then like community is just like the glue that keeps everything together.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I love that. And you wrap that up with a nice little phrase there. I think the let's touch on that part where you said like I did not used to enjoy doing fitness that wasn't like the sport or activity that I was doing. If I wasn't like playing softball, playing basketball, I did not enjoy doing fitness, but we know now how important it is to be well-rounded, to strength train, to
Mhm.
work on your mobility, all this stuff. You can't like just play basketball all the time and expect to
Yeah.
be able to do that at a high level and your body hold up for years and years and years. Like, how did you said, I think it was 2020. How did you start to like overcome that hurdle? Like, how did you start to enjoy doing those other things?
Yeah, I think that COVID created a space for everyone that you had to do it for yourself because you were stuck in your house with whoever you were in your house with. You were stuck there. And a lot of people did not like that. So I think that for me, it was partially a sense of control. Like I was like, this is one thing that I can control. And one thing I would like to enjoy is like my time in the gym. So I'm only going to do shit that I like to do. I'm going to do stuff that makes my body feel good. And I just am going to make this worthwhile. So really, I realized I don't like doing, heavy back squats because it hurt my knees. Now I have a much better appreciation for when I do back squat because I've released the idea that like I have to do these things because when I was competing, it was like you have to do the program. And so I just kind of release the pressure valve just a little bit of like, these are all these things that everyone else is doing that I have to do. And this is just what I'm going to do. Which was really helpful for me personally because I was in a relationship and not just with like my like husband at the time, but my gym and my community of like, I have to be this person that likes to do everything and I have to want to go do all these things. It's like, no, I'm going to be like really honest. I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to go do that. I don't want to do muscle ups anymore. It hurts my shoulders. I like, I will, but I don't have to. I like the ego side of that really kind of just dissipated because I was at home and no one was watching. So that really allowed me to fall into who I wanted to be, both in the gym and outside of the gym. And then when you enjoy what you're doing, like that stupid cliche line of, if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day. Like it's also not true, but uh, side note. But I think it rings true. Like when you enjoy the movement that you're doing, it's way easier to convince yourself to go when you don't really want to.
Yeah.
So I still have those days where motivation it's fleeting, so it's always going to disappear at some point. So your habits are then like the line of defense behind that. But for the most part, like when you enjoy the movement, it's like, oh yeah, I get to lift with people. This is fun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, I think you're totally right with what you said that yes, when you are involved in a business that's in like health and wellness, yes, I think most people that are in that are in it because they're very passionate about that and it's something that they love to do, but it's also a lot of work, right? It does take a lot of work to, whatever gym or place you're going to, just know that the people who are running that are doing a lot of work to make sure that place runs and to make sure that the team members and the staff's happy and healthy, and that the clients are coming in that are getting a good experience. Um, what I'm thinking of as you're describing sort of that mindset shift that you had there over the past handful of years is I'm actually in the middle of reading a book right now as we're recording this. And the major premise of the book is like getting to know yourself better and know who you are so that then you can show up as your true self to other people. And like you said, you were able to release yourself from the expectation and like the image you were trying to uphold or anything like that. Like I don't have to be this person for everyone else that's at the gym. I don't have to be the person who's just always completing the program. You were able to just sort of focus internally on who you are and what you need. And it sounds like that was a great shift all the way around, probably in all the different LY words, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, whatever words you want to use. I'm guessing you feel better in a better place in all of those now than you did, pre 2020.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me too, it was about redefining what fitness was or what fitness is to me and what it means. And for me, fitness is being able to pick up and do anything that I want to do or that someone is challenging me to do with them. And I think I have broke through quite a few barriers for myself in the past year, just of things that I've done that I said I would never do. And I'm going to do that again, like this year with new things. And it's just a wild, um, I don't know. It's looking back. I'm like, I can't believe that I am this person now because it's just, I never wanted to like actually do fitness stuff for the longest time. And it was like a chore. And so now to be able to have like this, um, portfolio like of the businesses that I have and like this is like what I'm meant to do and this is where I'm meant to be. is a wild thing where I literally never thought I would be here or be running about to run a marathon later this year and like cycling and
Yeah.
um because I have not been that injured, but when I was 24, I literally couldn't walk. I have patellofemoral, and so I had a bunch of issues just with my knees and basketball. And when I was growing up, people were like, "Oh, you're fine. Put an ankle brace on, put one of those like shitty knee things around your like, like you're gonna be fine." And or it's growing pains. And when I was 24, I couldn't walk, so I had to retrain everything, really take recovery seriously. And now you're in your like mid 30s and it's like everything hurts now, so you really have to be careful. So you better enjoy what you're doing, because if you hate it and you're hurting, like it's not a good place.
You're preaching to the choir here. I was actually just
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with another physical therapist this morning, and we were talking about just like the misguidance people get when it comes to taking care of their bodies, or you know, um, many folks that we know, myself included, who have gotten surgeries. And this was before I had gone through PT school and know the things that I know now, but like not being prescribed or recommended like rehab by the surgeon that did the surgery. And it's like, and now looking back at all the complications that I still have as a result of that procedure, that maybe could have been avoided if we just would have handled it probably the way we should. So yeah, I think it's back to the sort of like redefining what fitness meant to you. I was just sort of looking up what the definition on Dr. Google here is of fitness, and it's very broad, right? Like the definition of fitness being used as a noun is just simply written as the condition of being physically fit and healthy. And that is such a broad definition, right? And that can mean many different things to many different people. And there's so many different sports and activities that you can do. Even if, I mean, and I use the word sport loosely, right? Like you don't have to compete in anything to be fit or to be healthy. Even though sports oftentimes has like competition involved with it. But I also think of like, I recorded a podcast recently on playing, and just like, we used to play as kids and we would just go do stuff with no purpose, and we're throwing a ball around or we're jumping on this and we're climbing on that. And that's a great example of fitness, right? Just being able to go do the things you want to do when you want to go do them with the people that you want to do them with. So, um, what have you seen, Erica, in terms of either your own experience or from the angle of like the business owner, in terms of how that community fosters accountability for for the people who might be sort of struggling, for the people who don't want to show up to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, but you mentioned like you want to maybe show up for those other people that you've built these bonds and these relationships with. Like, how have you seen that community impact the accountability side of things?
Mm. Yeah, I think that, like I said, the community is like the glue that holds it together. So you can have the best workouts in the world, but if there's no one else there, like next to you, or there's no one that you want to go do that with, or if everyone's mean to you or just doesn't say anything, like you're like, I don't really think that that's what the workout is, not the experience. And I think that community is what shapes the full experience and keeps people coming back. So at Platform, for example, like all of we don't have a ton of group classes because we're a 24-hour facility. So, but like the classes that we do have, like there's a group of people in each of those, like that class, the noon class, they do stuff outside of the gym. The 6 a.m. class, they do stuff outside of the gym. There's a lot of gyms in Denver that have really, really great community. And I could name so many of them that it's what makes you want to go do that specific workout. So it could be the shittiest workout in the world, but everyone there you're like, oh, this is great. You would never even really know from like a physiological standpoint that if it was a quote unquote bad workout, because the people are what makes it worth it. You
Mhm.
know.
Totally. And, since you just said physiological, something I started thinking about as you're saying this is like, I'm thinking about this now from like a body and a hormone standpoint. It's like, okay, well, what happens when you exercise, right? Whether you are exercising with other people or you're exercising by yourself. From a heart rate, respiratory rate, X, Y, and Z standpoint, all the same stuff probably happens. But from a hormone, from a chemical standpoint, from a what happens in our brain, there are some big time differences when you're working out alone versus when you are working out with other people, right? We know that there are hormone changes that happens when you like give a sustained hug to another person, right? You hug your spouse or your significant other for more than a couple seconds. There are hormone effects that take place there. Or same thing, like if you kiss somebody for more than a couple seconds, there are hormones.
6 seconds or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe six is the number that's sticking in my head. Well, I'm also thinking about like, well, what else happens when you're working out with a group of people and you're all suffering together is you're giving high fives and you're cheering each other on and you're supporting the other people around you. There are significant hormone differences between doing that compared to you're going to the gym all by yourself, you're putting your headphones in and you're just going down the list of exercises in your notebook that you're supposed to do for that or that you plan to do for that day. Um, and that's got to be one of the major reasons that all of us probably feel very different. And it's hard to explain why it feels so different when I'm working out with other people versus when I'm working out alone, because I'm the same as you. Like I never used to, um, after I got done with team sports, I spent a lot of time just working out on my own. I wrote my own
Mhm.
programs. I went to the gym by myself. And, you know, I would like talk to other people and mingle at the gym, but I'm not like working out with people. And
Sure.
rarely did I ever go into a class. But now class-based exercise is the vast majority of what I do. And it is so much more fun for me to just be there with the other people in the community. And I feel like I'm still competitive. So it pushes me a little bit more to maybe just give that one little extra percent of effort than I would have if I wasn't working out with the class. And and yeah, you just have that camaraderie and that bond that it makes you just want to show up for the next one and then the next one. And it just like keeps feeding itself over and over and over until that, you know, the gym grows, the community grows, you've drinking the Kool-Aid and now you can't get away.
Yeah. I think that it's really important, I think, for people to understand if they are themselves an internal or an external regulator, where like I'm going because I said I was going to go and I'm going to, keep the integrity to myself and I'm internally regulating my behavior, where externally regulating, like, okay, my friends are there, so I have to show up. Oh, it could even be like the financial accountability of like, oh, I'm going to get charged if I don't go do this, like if I no show or whatever. So there's lots of different types of ways to kind of get yourself like immersed from the accountability standpoint. I think no one is immune from any of those. And I think what happened with COVID is people went one of two directions. You either kind of got fit or you got fat. That's like kind of my joke. Like this just kind of is. No one really stayed the same. Like just truly. How could you really in that environment? And I think so. I spun off like my own individual coaching business in April of 2020. Sweat with E. That's kind of how my branding kind of started, and I solely did it because I was not solely. The main reason is because I thought if I have to post photos of myself to this community of people that, from the gym or wherever on the internet, whoever, then maybe I won't get fat. So it started because I was like, oh my God, I have to keep myself accountable to what it is, that I'm doing. And then it turned into now I have like this community of people, like I'm taking all my clients to a happy hour on Thursday.
Yeah.
And I do this pretty regularly where I teach them, what is in a margarita, what's the nutrition behind it, what is the food that you're going to eat. You're not just going to go and have vegetables. So now I have this whole in-person business all because I decided like I just don't want to be fat again, and I'm never going back there. So now I'm externally regulated like entirely in everything that I do. So it's just like a weird thing that happens. And I think watching that for myself has been something that now I relay to people where it's like, who cares if you don't like to do spin? Come do spin with 30 people that and yeah, you might like it a little bit more than going and trying it with one of your friends that whatever. So it's just an interesting evolution of kind of like where fitness has gone to. There's so many different types of gyms and so many fun things to try. Like you don't have to love everything, but I learn something every single place that I go, and I almost always have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. There is no shortage of different directions you can go from a fitness standpoint. And it really doesn't matter that much like what you do. The first thing you need to find is what is the thing that you're going to be at least somewhat consistent with, right? Because then you can start to reap all the benefits that come with doing that. Like you could talk to, anyone that's highly educated from a health and fitness standpoint, and you could ask them like, well, what is the best type of exercise for someone to do? And pretty much everyone I know is going to say, well, what is the one that that person's going to stick with? Like, what is the thing that you're consistent with? Is it cardio? Is it strength? Is it Pilates? Is it yoga? Like, what is it? And let's just start with that and get them consistent. And then we can expand into the other areas. But yeah, I think there's huge benefit to trying something, like you said, spin, that's not what you normally do because you might end up liking it a lot. You'll learn a lot because it might show you areas in your fitness that, man, I could really improve on this. That was really hard. I thought I was going to dominate this class, and that really kicked my butt. And vice versa, you might find, wow, I'm pretty good at this, and I've never done this. Maybe I should pick this up. And I think that's a lot of times how people get into new hobbies and find new communities that they didn't even know they could be a part of because they'd never tried something before.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that with running. I mean, there's been this huge shift into like hybrid athletes. Like people
Yeah.
have been hybrid athletes forever. Like now there's just a name for it
Mhm.
because of like high rocks and all of those things. And I've done multiple high rocks events, and it's a lot of fun. I would do it again, and at the same time, like just like CrossFit didn't invent the burpee, like High Rocks and Spartan races, they didn't invent hybrid training. So now you get this whole push towards run clubs. Everything is a run club. And I think it's so funny. I'm like, now if you want to meet people, you go to the run club.
Totally. Well,
I just
it's so
think it's
funny
so
that you
funny.
bring that up because we've been having a conversation, and if you're listening to this, don't hold us to this if it doesn't end up happening, right? But maybe we predict the future. We have been talking about starting a physio room running club, right? To bring a community of people together. And we've already got people that run. Let's just all meet
Mhm.
at the same place and go run instead of all running by ourselves. More from the community aspect is sort of why we were thinking about doing it.
Sure.
But you're right, there's running clubs all over the place. There's like, I bet you
It's
within
everywhere.
short drive of where you live, there's probably a running club on every single night of the week that you could go attend if you wanted to.
It's just I don't know why it's funny to me. I'm happy for everyone, truly. Like I love that for them. I may or may not ever attend one. I'm not opposed to it. I'll try anything 3 times, but I'm just like, and I'm running on my own. So like part of me is like, I should go because I need to. That's accountability to get my mileage in or whatever. And I'm like, the last thing I want to do personally is talk to someone while I'm running. So it's just like one of those things that for me, I'm like, I think I'm gonna do this one solo for a little while, or maybe one other person, but I'm around people all day long, so it's very different for me. Like that's just feels like more work
Yeah,
versus regular people. So
yeah,
I just think it's really funny that like we're just seeing this push towards running as a community. I think it's fantastic, and I think that it's getting a lot of people out of their comfort zone of never being a runner, and that's fantastic. And I'm never going to complain about something like that.
totally, totally. Speaking of, being able to find whether it's a run club or fitness community, probably very close to where you live. What is the like what's the reach or what's the, I don't know, the zone of SweatNet? How far north, how far east and west? Like where does SweatNet all go in this region of Denver?
Yeah, we really go everywhere right now. A lot of our events are like centralized into Metro and Denver, downtown, Rhino, Sloan's Lake, Highlands. That's just kind of the nature of where it has been. I have outdoor events in Larimer Square, especially through the summer. We have Market Station, which is at like 16th and Market. Kind of there's an outdoor area behind Water Grill close to Union Station. We do outdoor events there with the sound off, like the silent disco headphones. Once a month, we do Larimer Square in the walking district. So basically Larimer Square is all us working out. What I'm trying to do and in the works of doing is making like a South Denver and kind of a Metro Denver SweatNet area so that there will be a community within the bigger community. Because if you live in Parker, there's no way in hell you're driving to View House Ballpark for yoga on a Sunday morning. Like, and vice versa. When I lived in Virginia Village, I barely drove, to downtown. So I'm just trying to expand it. It's just a lot more work than people maybe realize, and people give me feedback all the time, which is absolutely always welcomed. And I can tell you all of it is already in the works. It just
Yeah.
takes a lot longer with one person doing all of the things. And like just trying to learn the business first before you start changing everything. So I am trying to expand. And I've talked to a lot of studios in Littleton and everything like that, Highlands Ranch, Ken Carroll. I would love to expand. It's just part of it is capacity on my half, and just time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you're totally right. I mean, I think you kind of brought up the idea of like convenience, right? Like we need things that are convenient and easy to get to and whatnot. Yeah, it's challenging if you have a family, you live far south to get up to Denver or whatever for, it called an hour-long workout, but took 45 minutes in the car each way to get there. It's like that's a much harder sell to get somebody to be able to commit to than to be able to pop to something that's 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away. So yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we find maybe some of that I think I maybe used the word transient, but just like why we have such this like open fitness community here in Denver, because I feel like, if you're downtown for work, you might pop into a random different gym or something because you're like, oh man, there's going to be so much traffic for me to head back. Yeah, I don't want to go to the 6 p.m. class or whatever back at my normal gym. I'm just gonna pop in here and do a drop in. And I tell you what, like you said, every place that I've dropped into, the welcome has been there. The people in the class have been very open to meeting new people. It's not been like, oh, who's that new person over there that's walking in? It's been just awesome, no matter what type of facility it is. But I think the expansion plan that you're sort of talking about is really cool. And I think folks that live in anywhere near Denver, like you should absolutely check out a SweatNet event if you've not been to one. And then if it does continue to expand, like man, if it gets anywhere near your neck of the woods, definitely go check it out.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, we're constantly growing and trying to expand. It's happening. It's just a little bit slower because if I launch something in Littleton, I want to be able to provide that consistency where it's not just like, oh, occasionally we're down there. Like, no, if we're going to be down there, I want to be down there all the time. So it's coming. It's just a little bit more logistics than maybe people realize.
Yeah. Now, of course, we can find this stuff on the website, but I just want to make sure that we're all understanding like exactly what SweatNet is. So somebody has a membership to SweatNet, and that affords them the ability to attend all the events at these partner facilities that you have connections with. What else is there for when somebody has their membership to SweatNet? What all does that include?
Yeah, so for $10 a month, it is so, so cheap. It's so affordable. You get access to all of the events. You also get discounts for all of our partners and vendors. So even if you wanted to have like a punch card at somewhere else, like say we go drop in at a I don't know, a cycle studio, just because we are using that example, you can actually get a better like a discount as a SweatNet member just even for that studio. So it works for studios, but I also have an entire database of vendors. So clothing stores, we've got OXB jewelry, which is like sweat proof jewelry. We have so many vendors, juice places, coffee shops, local places all throughout Denver and Colorado. Some of them it works online, LSKD, which is an Australian activewear brand. Yeah, I love them. They're amazing. They're in San Diego, but they also are kind of expanding through North America and through the US. They great quality stuff, and trust me, I worked at Lululemon, so when I say that, I don't say it lightly. It's great quality stuff, but we get discounts there. So there's so many other benefits beyond just the monthly memberships. that make it just like most people don't even know that that's an option. So that's really cool. And then honestly, like some people have told me they just have met some of their best friends in at an event and then they just hang out outside of that, which I absolutely love. Obviously that's like so freaking cool and cool to bring people together that would probably never meet, which is just like so cool.
Yep. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest parts, that like you're going to put yourself in a scenario to connect with people that you probably wouldn't run into anyways. I mean, you might, but you probably don't work with them. You probably don't go to the same restaurant at the same time. And if you do, what are the chances in that kind of environment that you're going to just like
Right.
meet somebody casually, right? You're usually going there
Hmm.
either with someone else or something like that. You're not just going to like run into somebody. And I totally agree with you that I think a lot of times as adults, it is so much harder to meet people. Especially, I feel like now we have so much technology, we do so much stuff on the computer, social media. You got all these, dating apps and whatnot. Not that you need to do this for like a dating relationship, but just friendships and stuff too. It is so much harder to meet people because we're all busy doing our own thing and we all have our own lives. But that was actually one of the things that I think I was the most excited about when we just had our son Aiden, knowing that, hey, we are going to be in so many different places now where we're going to meet other parents that are in the same kind of like life scenario and have similar age kids over the course of him growing up and going to school. I was like, we're going to meet so many new friends just by the nature
Hmm.
of now we have a child. So because it's
Yep.
it's hard to do that just on a day-to-day basis. So I think that potential benefit of a community like this can't be overstated enough, because community and relationships and friendships are like one of the most valuable assets that any of us have. And like can't put a value on how important those things are.
Yeah, and especially when there's like this shift away from alcohol too, which is like fantastic. If you like to drink, fantastic. If you don't like to drink, fantastic. It doesn't really matter. And I'm trying to come up with more creative ways to make social events social without alcohol. So it's an interesting thing. Like we went to a Rockies game, which is like maybe you don't give, you don't care at all about the worst team in baseball, which is totally fine. But it's like you're sitting outside, you're with people you're just meeting for the first time, and it's just like a fun way to do something different. And whereas if you go with your friends, it's a very different experience. So there's that. We're doing a tie-dye event for June, for Pride after the workout in Larimer Square. So just trying to get people, rather than like, hey, we're going to do this and then go drink or go sit at a beer hall or go, do a pub crawl or whatever. There's so many other options for ways to be social that aren't alcohol related. And I think that that's a lot of like, especially if you're single, like I am single, and it's really hard to like find something to do that's not fitness, that's also like not booze. Like it's like you're going to a run club or you're like going out for drinks. Like those
Yeah.
are the two ways to meet people as an adult. So I think SweatNet's just been a really cool kind of bridge of like, I like to be active, but also I like to meet people that I don't necessarily have to, go throw back shots to
Yeah.
meet
No,
people. No.
no, I think you're totally right, because that's also one of the things that I feel a lot of times that is one of the experiences I've noticed is different from like being here compared to being in the Midwest, quite frankly. Like back where I'm used to, people used to ask me, "Oh, well, what did you used to do back home for fun?" And it's like, well, it's like you said, it's either fitness or it's food and drinks, and it's like, what is there in between? I don't know. And now out here, I regularly will go for like walking meetings with people, or we'll go grab coffee and we'll go walk around instead of just like sitting there drinking our coffee, or instead of just having a beer, we're like, we'll go for a hike and we'll have our meeting. Or, it'll be like you said, a group of people going out to do something. And not that that means if people want to have a beer or something, they can't do that. Absolutely. Be my guest, go for it. But I feel so much less like there's no shaming, right? It's not like other people are making you feel a certain way if you don't want to do that. There's so much other stuff you can do. And now I think it's so cool that we're having these um there's so many more like non-alcoholic beverage companies that are popping up. Um, different than ones that we grew up with, right? All the sports drinks and stuff. Now it's like, okay, we still have carbonated seltzer stuff that's not alcoholic and isn't gonna give you a bunch of extra calories that none of us probably need anyway. So no, I think it's really cool. And this type of stuff didn't really, oh, I'm gonna take back what I was just about to say. I was gonna say that this type of stuff did not really exist when we were growing up, but really it did. It just was in a different form, right? It's like I don't do this now, and I feel like it's less popular now, but our parents' generation, everything, people were part of darts leagues and bowling leagues and bridge clubs, and like they had their communities of things
Mm.
they did, and maybe there was alcohol and stuff tied to that, but that's not the point. It's like
Mm.
there were things that people did regularly, whether that's weekly or every other week, with a community of people that I just feel like we don't have as much now. And SweatNet or something similar to it can be exactly that for people in our generation.
Mhm. Yeah, and we're starting to see, I mean, there's a couple other businesses and companies that do, fitness events. So it's not like SweatNet's the only one out there.
Yeah,
Full Circle Events is one, and
I
I've
heard
heard
that one.
fantastic things about their events. I haven't had the opportunity to go to one quite yet. And Strength in the City has been around for a really long time. And I think the difference, um, for me, what SweatNet is instead of those is it's a little bit more approachable. I think that those events are, for potentially 3 to 5 hour long events, and they're on like a Friday night, which is fantastic. And it's just like a different group of athlete that I've seen on social media. And I think that there's something different where SweatNet is not, we're not competing with either of those events. I think that there's plenty to go around. And I think that, like, again, fitness should be shared with everyone. So who cares? People ask me that all the time, like, well, are you worried about all these other, fitness things? I'm like, no,
No,
fitness has been around forever. Like, I am not concerned at all. And I think that for SweatNet too, it's like I don't expect everyone to come to every event. That's the whole point. Like if you don't want to do Pilates, then don't come to Pilates. I don't my like ego is not hurt from that. If you don't want to try kickboxing, like don't try it. But I would encourage you to try it if you have never done it before. But also it's like some are during the week, some are on the weekend. So it's meant to be more inclusive and more approachable for $10 a month. And in addition, like all my ambassadors go to their events. I'm like, go meet people, cool. Let's partner with them. So it's not really. I just think that there's like this thought that fitness has to be like it's so like siloed, and I'm like, there's plenty to go around, and it's fun to try new stuff. So
yeah, like you said, it's not a competition. It's like we are all in this together, and when we can have that community, have that accountability, and I like to use the word pull, right? We pull each other along. We don't push each other to do things. Like
mm,
pull people with you to better places. I think it's just better for everyone. So, Ericka,
mm,
what's the best way as we like start to wrap this up? And my call to action for all of you guys is going to be like go find a SweatNet event that you can be part of and go check one out, meet some people, and experience it for yourself. But if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that if they have some questions or something after they listen to this conversation?
yeah, Instagram is definitely the best. I'm personally on Instagram at sweat with with periods in between, or at SweatNet Denver. And it's all me responding. So I will reach out at some point on either one of those. I think that our events, if you want to come try something, come try a month free. I have a code for people to use. So just DM me and I'm happy to kind of give that to you and come check us out and try out all the things.
Awesome. Well, and of course, you can find the website there on Instagram. But if you want to just navigate to it now, go to sweatnet.com/Denver, and you'll be able to find the schedule of all the events and go find one to get plugged into yourself. And people love free things or discounts, so definitely take advantage of what Ericka just said. Shoot her a message and get that code so you can get signed up and go experience a few things for yourself. Um, Ericka, you already mentioned like kind of a definition of fitness, but I have not done this on every episode, but I'd like to do it now. When I started this podcast, what I thought I was going to ask everyone to do was answer like, what is your code to cracking the code, or what is your secret to health and human performance? So of owning a gym, of being an athlete growing up, like if you could just boil it down to all the things you've experienced and what you know now, like what should people focus on when it comes to improving their health and human performance? What is your secret here to cracking the code?
No one's gonna like this answer, but it's um, doing the boring stuff when
Mhm.
you don't want to. Sleep. If people saw my lifts and my workouts that I do, it is the same thing, but I progressively overload. If people saw my day, I have the same morning routine. Try to do simple things consistently most of the time. And I think that that is what moves the needle further than trying to do anything. You can't see results if you jump around all the time, which I've done. So I say that with the most respect and doing the boring stuff, whether it's business related, whether it is sports related, you just have to put in reps. You have to have your blinders on and you have to do it when you don't want to. And
Yeah,
that's nutrition, it's everything. So, and you have to do it for yourself, not for anyone else.
that's right. Go out there and master the basics, you guys. Ericka, I thought this conversation was great. I really appreciate you hopping on here, joining us on the code, teaching us all a bit more about SweatNet and talking about how important that community aspect is to health and fitness and life in general. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Cool, guys. All you that tuned in to listen to this episode on the code, thank you so much for doing that. If you've done this before, you know we are trying to increase our reach of this podcast and increase our reviews. So if you've not already left us a review on the code, whatever platform you're listening on, please navigate to that review section and drop a review on there. Ask us some questions, and you can find all of Ericka's and I's information in the show notes. And we hope to catch you guys on another episode of the code. See you later.